For the first time in Asia, connect your landphone and smartphone through SLT Wi-Fi with the SLT Voice app.
Tonight, twisting Sri Lanka's hand. The United Kingdom issues a borderline threat of a president inking death warrants, while the EU is also concerned. Cautions all around. Former diplomat sounds the alarm over SOFA agreement.
And the total number of people who can theoretically be covered by this agreement exceed 2.8 million.
Also casts doubt over Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Up to now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation has not been able to deliver on any one of their promises fully.
An untapped market. Calls to invest in artificial intelligence as double revenue awaits.
One way of attracting AI companies is to have the right talent. The other is to give them a lot of attractive incentives.
Some reprieve. CID clears Dr. SHAFI from terror allegations, but sterilisation claims are another matter. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Thursday, the 27th of June 2019.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෙයානස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෙයානස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamika Kanaka. Let's start with your local stories. President Maithripala Sirisena's announcements yesterday, where he revealed that he signed the death warrants of 4 convicted drug racketeers, has ruffled some feathers. The head of state's move has reinvigorated a long-standing debate on the use of capital punishment. Its detractors mainly seem to be nations in the West, with non-governmental organisations also urging a reversal to the decision. In this regard, the United Kingdom has raised its concerns at the highest levels of the Sri Lankan government. Issuing an official statement through the Foreign Office, the UK said that Sri Lanka's decision will inevitably make it more difficult for the UK to cooperate on law enforcement issues, including on counter-terrorism, and will require them to review technical assistance programs on relevant policing, defence and other security issues. The UK also moved to say that a reversal of the moratorium on the death penalty would be a regressive step that would harm Sri Lanka's international standing and its reputation as a tourist destination and growing centre for business. UK said it opposes the use of the death penalty in all circumstances as a matter of principle. 2 global superpowers, China and the US, are also among countries which implement the death penalty. Amnesty International also cautions that Sri Lanka will undo all progress made by the country to end the use of the death penalty if President Maithripala Sirisena moves ahead with his plans to execute 4 prisoners. Now, issuing a statement, the non-governmental organisation said that it is shocked by President's decision and expects to reverse it. It casts concern that there's no names have been revealed so far, and said that it's worried that no confirmation on whether the 4 prisoners or their families have been alerted of the imminent execution. Amnesty International says this lack of transparency makes it impossible to ascertain whether these prisoners have exhausted clemency appeals or if all safeguards were followed in their conviction or sentencing. The statement went on to say that executions for drug-related offences are unlawful and that they do not meet the threshold for most serious crimes under international human rights laws and standards. In the meantime, the European Union also flagged their concerns over the president's decision, saying it would contradict Sri Lanka's commitment taken at the 73rd United Nations General Assembly in December 2018 to maintain the moratorium on the death penalty. It said that studies show that death penalty fails to act as a deterrent to crime, and resuming it would also send a wrong signal to international community, investors and partners of Sri Lanka. EU added that it will continue to monitor Sri Lanka's effective implementation of the 27 international conventions relating to the Generalized Scheme of Preferences Plus Commitment, or GSP Plus, that is, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Status of Forces Agreement, or SOFA for short, has been the talk of the political arena, giving rise to much speculation, largely owing to the lack of access to its content. That said, former diplomat Dr. Palitha Kohana expects it to only serve the US interests, despite it being a bilateral agreement. Dr. Kohana also believes that inking this agreement would lead to Sri Lanka being unwittingly caught in a global war. His views were delivered at a conference titled Earlier Today.
We are discussing at the moment is the proposed Status of Forces Agreement, SOFA. Although the intended SOFA with Sri Lanka is not out in the open, we can get an idea of what it would contain by looking at the other SOFAs. I mean, personally, I think this SOFA is far too extensive. American security personnel, and they've been described and listed, and contractors of the Department of Defense will be entitled to income tax exemptions for anything earned in Sri Lanka. Anything that is imported to Sri Lanka will be exempt from import duties and also import inspections. Any criminal activity or etc. will not be subject to Sri Lankan law, will be subject to American law, and they can enter and go anywhere in Sri Lanka in their own military uniforms, wearing their insignia, and carry their weapons as well. A country which up to now has been non-aligned, not involved with any external conflict, suddenly being asked or agreeing to host thousands of security service personnel of a foreign country. And the total number of people who can theoretically be covered by this agreement exceed 2.8 million.
The former Foreign Secretary also touched on the Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Up to now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation has not been able to deliver on any one of their promises fully. In 2006-2007, also, the MCC agreed to make available $500 million to Sri Lanka. That money was never made available to Sri Lanka. I know because I myself, as Foreign Secretary, went to Washington, and then just unceremoniously we were told that money is not available, you're not going to get it. And then under the MCC Compact, one of the infrastructure projects that they have identified is developing a transport corridor between Trincomalee and Colombo. Colombo is our main harbor and the main international airport. Is this the corridor that we need most? Do we really need to link Trincomalee to Colombo? Is that Sri Lanka's priority? If we needed highways and high-speed railways, aren't there other corridors that we need to develop before that? The road to Jaffna. It takes 8 hours to get there now. It's also linked to 2 or 3 pieces of legislation which Parliament has considered and will consider in the near future. One deals with Crown land, which will now, under the legislation, be allocated to a land bank for the purpose of disposal, commercial disposal. The other deals with land that has been allocated to individuals. I mean, over the years in Sri Lanka, we addressed the land hunger by allocating land to poor people, small acreages. And now these lands will be made available to these individuals under a title that could be alienated.
Now, the proposal to extend the emergency regulations by another month passed without a vote in Parliament today. During the debate, leader of the Janata Vimukthi Peramuna, Anura Kumara Disanayaka, noted that the President, as the Minister of Defence, was absent for the debate. In line with parliamentary traditions, since the President is the Minister of Defence, it is the State Minister of Defence who should present the proposal to extend emergency regulations. There is no use in detaining suspects who are arrested over minor things. We urge to release such suspects.
මොකටද මේ හදිස් නීති සම්මත කරන්නේ?
Why should emergency regulations be passed? What is the situation now? What are the steps taken by the security forces? It is the President who should explain these things in Parliament as the Minister of Defence. He speaks enough outside Parliament. He is not even coming to Parliament, and the State Minister is not here either. It shows that the leaders of this country are not mindful of the security of the people.
තැකීමක් නොකරන බව මේ පාලකයෝ.
මෙතුමා කියලා දෙනවා we have been able to bring everyone to book within 2 months කියලා. I don't think he can make that statement. Then he should come to the House and make the statement, give all the details and close the inquiry. Let the Prime Minister not make another propaganda drive on this. We know with difficulty the government as well as the opposition leader extending support to the government has been able today to win back confidence of most of the countries that clamped on the tourist arrivals. And he has said that the Attorney General had advised him that this inquiry is sub judice, and he has informed the Speaker. The House does not know. The Speaker has not informed us whether he was informed by the President of the country. Now today the Leader of the House raised, when we get up under 27(2), Speaker says you have no right to debate. But today we spend 1 hour debating some other issue on the 27(2). The chair is not being consistent in following parliamentary procedure and practice.
The Criminal Investigations Department today presented a 210-page report to the Kurunegala Magistrates Court on the investigations conducted into Dr. Saigushi Abdin Mohammed Shafi. The CID informed court that they don't have any evidence against Dr. Shafi on terror activities or in relation to the National Tawhid Jamaat organization. He was arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The official said that they will therefore take action to revoke the detention order on Dr. Shafi after informing the Defence Secretary on the matter. CID officials also shed light on information regarding allegations against Dr. Shafi by disgruntled mothers who alleged that they were unable to conceive after the doctor performed cesarean operations on them. CID officials have uncovered that Dr. Shafi, who had conducted 4,372 cesarean operations at the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital, had taken a relatively lesser time than usual for operations on Sinhalese and Tamil mothers. However, out of the 615 complaints that the CID had received, 468 had been lodged merely on suspicion by mothers' end. The rest of the 147, however, had been lodged by mothers who face health complications following surgery. The CID then requested a court order to be granted to conduct an SHG or fertility test for these mothers from the National Hospital in Colombo. The court, however, didn't grant the request and instead ordered the CID to present a report on the 11th of July after obtaining statements from doctors of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital. Meanwhile, the CID officials also informed court that the monthly income of Dr. Shafi is 19.2 million rupees and that he had recently purchased property worth over 50 million rupees. Moving on with other local stories, President Maithripala Sirisena is concerned by the rising number of drug addicts in the country, pointing to the lack of space at all rehabilitation centres in the island. Addressing an event in Polonnaruwa today, the head of state said that despite there being a demand for rehabilitation services, space at relevant institutions has become a stumbling block. The newly constructed two-storey building of the Bandiwava College in Polonnaruwa was vested with students today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. Built under the District Development Programme Awakening of Polonnaruwa, the construction project was worked off at a cost of 17.6 million rupees. Just as much as the residents in villages use illicit drugs, people in cities with more money also use them. Drug traffickers give away drugs at universities for free. There are 10 to 12 rehabilitation centres in the country for drug addicts, with the largest of them set up in Valikanda. These rehabilitation centres too don't have enough space to accommodate incoming addicts. There are many requests from concerned parents to rehabilitate their drug-addicted children, but we don't have enough space at these rehabilitation centres anymore. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe believes that it's high time the country's education system is modernised, stepping into the era of information technology. Addressing an event in Trincomalee this evening, the Premier pledged to give computers to all advanced level students in the country. We will be providing jobs to 20,000 more graduates this year. We want to modernise the education system, and we will take our education system to an IT era. It is unfair for the country if we fail to modernise our education. We switched from blackboards to whiteboards, and it's now time to switch to computers. All advanced level students should be given an IT education, so we decided to give away computers to all of them. Teachers will also be beneficiaries of these computers. This will be a massive leap in education. There are 90,000 job vacancies in the IT sector, so this government has taken measures to enter the IT era.
අපි කම්පියුටර් යුගයට යන්න තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුව ක්‍රියා කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා මම කියන්න කැමතියි.
Sri Lanka's permanent representative in Geneva, Ambassador A.L.A. Aziz, highlights the critical role Sri Lankan women play as first responders in emergency situations to ensure the survival of families and communities. Addressing the Humanitarian Affairs segment during the opening session of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, Ambassador Aziz called on investing in women leadership, that is, implementation and coordination of response strategies in humanitarian programs.
In the current international focus on humanitarian assistance, the need for more flexible funding in an emergency situation is imperative. Women are the first responder to emergencies and can play a critical role in the survival of families and communities. Sri Lanka believes that investing in women leadership and promoting their participation in planning, design and implementation and coordination of response strategies of humanitarian programs increases the effectiveness of humanitarian action and serving affected population more effectively. So a critical challenge that remains though is the role of media, especially social media, which often is exploited to exacerbate the prevalent conditions through spreading of hate and misinformation instead of helping the affected communities and persons obtain much needed assistance and space for recovery.
Transparency International Sri Lanka invites parliamentarians to submit their asset declarations to the Speaker and even take a step further in making them public. Attorney at Law Sankita Gunaratna believes that by making the asset declarations available to the public, politicians can become transparent and lift the cloud of corruption hanging over them.
The 30th of June is the last day for members of Parliament to submit their asset declarations to the Speaker or to the President. So as this deadline approaches, Transparency International Sri Lanka made a written invitation to all 225 members of Parliament to make their asset declarations simultaneously publicly available. Usually asset declarations are kept on file but not published to the people. It is in this context that we make this call for these to be made publicly available. In February this year, in 2019, 7 members of Parliament took the historic step of making their asset declarations publicly available. We are hoping with this invitation that more members of Parliament will join this move towards transparency and accountability to their electorates. 2 of the MPs who made their asset declarations publicly available last year have already sent in their asset declarations and they are available here. Honourable Ranjan Ramanayaka and Honourable Vasudeva Nanayakara, who have sent their new asset declaration as well for public dissemination. And this is non-disclosure of an asset declaration. Non-submission constitutes an offence under the asset declaration law. It is important for us to also ask and obtain this information as to how many have truly submitted their asset declarations even to Parliament and to Cabinet.
The Colombo High Court has served indictments on former DIG Anura Senanayaka for concealing evidence on the murder of Sri Lankan rugby player Wasim Tajuddin. The indictments were served before the Colombo High Court Judge Vikum Kaluarachi today. The court then ordered the suspect to be released on 2 personal bails worth 200,000 rupees each. The judge also stipulated that the passport of the defendant should be handed over to court and that he was prohibited from leaving the country without the permission of the court. Furthermore, 6 witnesses, including the OIC of Narahimpita Crime Division, Sumit Pereira, were issued notices to appear before court on the 23rd of October when the case is due to be taken up next. Meanwhile, the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption has filed a case in the Permanent High Court trial at bar against former Sports Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage and former Satosa Chairman Nalin Fernando for incurring losses amounting to 53 million rupees to the government. The case was filed this morning with the second Permanent High Court trial at bar in Colombo. The former sports minister and Sathasa chairman are accused of causing millions of losses to the government by importing carom boards and checkers boards for distribution to sports clubs during the last presidential election. Now, President Maithripala Sirisena issued a Gazette Extraordinary today declaring the Sri Lanka Railways an essential public service. State Minister of Transport Ashok Abesinghe says the move enables action against railway employees who go on strike under the emergency law. Railway trade unions had launched a two-day strike action last week over wage discrepancies, crippling nearly all train services across the island. They also had plans to launch another token strike at midnight today, and that is set to go ahead as planned. There is more news waiting on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now the stage is set for one of the most anticipated film awards in the country, Derana Lux Film Awards 2019. The award ceremony will be worked off at the Nelumpokuna Theatre tomorrow, where we felicitate actors and actresses of Sri Lankan cinema. Our viewers can indulge in the grandeur of the event from their living room by turning on to TV Derana at 9:30 p.m. First at 9's Shanella Fernando is at the Nelumpokuna Theatre, bringing us an update ahead of tomorrow's showpiece.
Shining the spotlight on the best of Sri Lanka's silver screen, the 7th edition of Derana Lux Film Awards is all set to get underway tomorrow at the Nelumpokuna Theatre in grandeur. As you can see, preparations are underway for tomorrow's event, as the ceremony will be lit up by many performances performed by an array of personalities of the showbiz industry in Sri Lanka. Tomorrow's event will be telecast live on TV Derana from 9:30 p.m. onwards, so don't forget to tune in, as the best of the industry will be awarded for their work. First introduced in 2011, the Derana Film Awards will feature 3 categories, with 18 special awards by the jury, Derana Cinema of Tomorrow and 7 popular awards. Accolades will be given to movies that hit the cinemas in 2018 by a panel of elite judges.
The 7th Derana Lux Film Awards.
We've been practicing since 1.5 to 2 weeks now at a stretch, and I'm really looking forward to perform, plus try out my act on stage and see how I feel. The nice thing is you feel like your family is being celebrated at the end of the day, whoever wins. So award ceremonies are always a fun event for me.
Really excited actually. We have been doing rehearsals all the way. I have been nominated for 2 categories also, so nervous and excited.
The event will get underway tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. and will be telecast on TV Derana from 9:30 p.m. onwards.
EXPOLANKA Holdings plc today rang the opening bell to commence trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange. The market opening ceremony was organised to celebrate EXPOLANKA Holdings making an entry to the S&P SL 20 as part of 2019 Mid-Year Index rebalance.
The hierarchy of EXPOLANKA Holdings, including Director and Group CEO Hanif Yusuf, were present at the event, with the CAC being represented by its chairman Rehabilitatione, along with its director and CEO. EXPOLANKA Holdings plc, which started in 1978, grew into an international conglomerate with its operations in 18 countries globally, specializing in logistics, leisure and investment, employing more than 2,900 staff.
You have, it's a great achievement of what and how you have taken this business to where it was. We also actively participated in your IPO in 2011. I think you raised 2.4 billion. It was heavily oversubscribed. It was one of those catalysts that set the market on a run. Those were some of the companies that got listed that really set themselves up for the super run that we had in 2011-12 for the market. So that was excellent. And
Sri Lanka currently has over 80,000 people working in the information technology sector that generates revenue of about $1.2 billion. The next step for the industry is artificial intelligence. Chairman of Sri Lanka Association of Software and Service Companies, Jeevan Nyanam, highlights the importance of tapping into the global market of artificial intelligence that will grow to an industry of $15 trillion in the next 4 years. He says that with a clear strategy in place, Sri Lanka has the potential to achieve $5 billion from the IT industry by 2022.
A draft policy framework to promote artificial intelligence in Sri Lanka was launched yesterday by the Sri Lanka Association of Software and Service Companies. SLASCOM will use this draft to drive debate and discuss opportunities and challenges of the technology to have a robust AI policy framework within the next 3 to 6 months.
Sri Lankans aren't equipped for tomorrow's jobs. Out of 40,000 people that enter university, less than 200 data scientists annually. This is a number that we have to change as a country. AI in agriculture can affect the most number of people and the majority of population in Sri Lanka. Could help farmers predict with accuracy their pricing so they wouldn't have to rely on middlemen. The impact of this could be huge as we lift the majority of our population to middle income status. Sri Lanka, unlike US and China, doesn't have the funding or the human capital to fight on all fronts of AI. So the idea here is we go niche with our strengths and capabilities. Do we look at marine AI as we are surrounded by oceans? Or do we focus on a particular industry, say logistics, which is bound to grow given our geographical location? All of this needs to be discussed. One way of attracting AI companies is to have the right talent. The other is to give them a lot of attractive incentives to get them to come, and hopefully the knowledge transfer will be there. Our hope is that AI companies come not only to sell their services, but come to set up roots and bring in R&D or compute centers.
The global market size for artificial intelligence is currently at $2 trillion and will reach $15 trillion by 2022. Even 1% of that $2 trillion could double revenue for Sri Lanka's industry of information technology, which owns a revenue of $1.2 billion. But we aren't the only country that see artificial intelligence as the next step. There has been tremendous activity concerning AI policy positions and the development of AI ecosystem in different countries over the last 18 to 36 months. This is why Sri Lanka's problem in the industry will be a challenge and therefore must immediately be addressed.
What we are seeing is actually AI almost as the tip of the iceberg, and we are seeing there is a lot of groundwork that has to be done leading up to applications around AI. One of the most basic things, and it might be a bit boring to say, but it is the truth, in Sri Lanka we are lacking digital infrastructure, we are lacking digital awareness and use of infrastructure. So if you look at the smartphone penetration that we have in a country as compared to other regions which have even lesser of a GDP per capita, we are lacking. There is no reason for us to lack because we have one of the best networks in the world. We have one of the lowest costs per gigabyte in the world. We are number 7 in the world in terms of cost per gigabyte. So the fundamentals in the country are there, but somehow we are lacking still in the use of digital opportunities.
And now to bring you a market update, Colombo shares ended nearly flat, pulled down by weakness in blue chips such as JKH in dull trade. The benchmark stock index ended 0.06% weaker, hovering near its lowest closing levels since the 11th of June hit on Tuesday. We have Hiruni Pereira from First Capital Holdings with your market report.
Today, the secondary market yield curve remained broadly unchanged, with overall market witnessed moderate volumes. At the Treasury bond auction held today, the total offered amount of 125 billion was fully accepted, with 15,624 maturity and 15,335 accepted at weighted average of 9.83 and 10.59%.
After this short break, we're going to take a look at what's happening around the world. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, thousands of Hong Kong anti-extradition protesters rallied outside police headquarters last evening, cheering as an anti-government banner was unfurled from the building. They set up metal barricades to block entrances. Many donned helmets, masks and goggles as they cursed Hong Kong's police chief for what they say was a brutal clampdown on some protests in recent weeks. They also spray-painted and pelted eggs at buildings while occupying nearby roads. The rally lasted for around 6 hours until the crowd dwindled to less than 100, allowing the police to chase away dozens of lingering groups. The protest comes days after a deadline lapsed for Hong Kong's government to withdraw a bill that would allow individuals, including foreigners, to be extradited to mainland China to face trial in courts controlled by its ruling Communist Party. Taking a look at sports, St. Joseph's College Maradana won the Under-17 All-Ireland A Division basketball tournament, defeating Ananda College Colombo by 32 points. St. Joseph's College got off to a brilliant start, converting 5 back-to-back possessions into points and leading the first quarter 29-1. They held on to their lead by adding 15 more points in the second quarter, while Ananda College could only score 8 more points. Coming into the third quarter of the match, Ananda College tried hard to overcome the Josephians, but it was all too much. The match ended in favour of St. Joseph's College with the scoreboard reading 79-41. Now on to the ICC Cricket World Cup, where India are taking on the West Indies in Manchester. The Windies are 8th in the points table, with their opponents perched 3rd without losing a single game. India have also played less games than other teams, electing to bat first. The men in blue struggled with the bat as runs were hard to come by. Opener KL Rahul fell for 48, while captain Virat Kohli scored 72. Former skipper MS Dhoni chipped in with an unbeaten knock of 56, while Hardik Pandya scored 46 to help India 268 for the loss of 7 wickets. Chasing 269 to win, the Windies are currently on 107 runs for the loss of 7 wickets. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.